So, what if a plague wasn't just a mindless disease? What if it was a thinking, feeling entity with a dark purpose? That is the terrifying and frankly fascinating idea we're diving into today with the parable of the descent of the Red Death.
Right from the start, we're not just observing this thing, we're inside its head. It looks up at the moon and asks this just incredibly haunting question. This tells you everything you need to know, right? This is no ordinary force of nature. It's a poet, a philosopher, a brooding entity that sees its own dark work mirrored in the stars themselves.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Part 1, A Crimson Ripeness. This is all about its awakening, this feeling it has that it must act.
So get this, for 30 long years, this entity has just been waiting, dwelling in these valleys filled with the dead. And that number, 30 years, it's so important because it builds this incredible sense of stagnation, of weariness. You can almost feel it getting restless, can't you? Something's about to break. And what finally pushes it into action? It's not some order from above. Nope, it's just Sakatar. It's exhausted with being still. And when it finally rises, it does so with the blood moon, ready to confront the stars. I mean, how epic is that? This isn't just a journey, it's a cosmic event. The whole natural order is about to be shaken up.
So, you might be asking, what's its motivation? Is it just evil? Well, it's more complicated than that. The story calls it a dire necessity. It's this deep hunger, this feeling of crimson rightness, like a fruit that's about to burst. It actually sees what it does as a gift. And here's the kicker. Its target isn't the sick or the weak. It's going after those in defiant health. You know, the people who think they're completely untouchable.
Okay, on to part 2, An Age of Illusions. As it descends from the mountains, it runs into someone, out there in the mist. And who does it meet? A holy man, a saint, who basically asks the question we're all thinking, why are you doing this? Why bring this suffering down on us? He's really the voice of the old world, right? A world of faith, of mercy, and he's standing face to face with this new, absolutely terrifying truth. And you can see the clash of ideas right here. The Red Death looks at the saint's faith and just sees a delusion, devotion to a phantom. It basically says, you people are living in an age of gilded illusions. Your gods are just pretty veils you use to hide from the ugly truth of decay, the encroaching worm. And from its twisted point of view, what it's doing isn't cruel. It's clarity. It's showing people the truth. But, there's no real debate here. The Red Death just passes by. It doesn't need to argue. The outcome is already a foregone conclusion. The holy man is left praying into a silence that's about to be shattered by the sound of funeral bells. Chilling stuff. Now for part 3, The Sublime End. Our entity has arrived at its first major stop, a city that the parable calls the Citadel of Vanity. And what does it find there? This scene is just wow. A massive crowd is watching a harlequin, a clown basically, dancing on a tightrope. Think about that imagery. They are completely captivated by this foolish, risky entertainment, and they have no idea they're all standing on the edge of a much bigger abyss, their own mortality. It is the perfect, most potent picture of a society in complete denial. And right into the middle of this party, this willful ignorance, steps the Red Death. It makes its grand proclamation, and its voice is described as a clock striking inside a tomb. I mean, that's a sound that stops you dead in your tracks, right? It's a bone-deep reminder that time is up. And notice what it says. It's not, I'm here to kill you. It's, I teach you the sublime end. It frames itself as a teacher. So how does the crowd react to this terrifying proclamation? They laugh. Of course they do. They think it's just another performer, part of the act. And this moment, this is the absolute peak of their arrogance, their hubris. They're so wrapped up in their little distractions that they can't even recognize doom when it's standing right in front of them, speaking plain as day. But the joke's on them, because their fate is already sealed. That tightrope the harlequin is on, it's a metaphor for their own fragile lives, and it's already snapping. That laughter, it's the very last happy sound you're going to hear from this world before it completely shudders. Which brings us to part 4, The Great Agony. The party is over. The illusions are gone. It's time for the unmasking. And the horror starts so quietly and so poetically. Not with a big scream, but with a single gout of blood that blossomed on a young woman's cheek. That word, blossomed,
makes it so much more disturbing, doesn't it? The plague is here. The masquerade is officially over. And as all hell breaks loose, the Red Death drops another one of its philosophical bombs. It says humanity isn't the center of creation. It's just a fragile bridge, a temporary path between the rotting corpses of the past and the endless darkness of the future. Pretty bleak. And just like that, their entire world collapses. The Harlequin falls from the wire. The happy music turns into this horrible, dissonant funeral song. The streets themselves become slick and corrupted. What was a party moments ago is now a dance of pure terror. But again, let's look at this from the Red Death's point of view. To it, this isn't a tragedy, it's truth. All the fakery of life, the pageant as it calls it, is finally stripped away. And what's left? The honest perfection of the last gasp. For this entity, that is the only thing that's real.
Okay, moving on to part 5, a conservatory of arrogance. The city, that was just a warm-up. Now it's time for the main event, the final destination.
The Red Death turns its gaze to the horizon, and it sees this massive, fortified abbey. And the words used to describe it are so important. Iron-bound with cold and treacherous gold. This isn't some humble monastery. No, this is a fortress built with wealth and power, and its beauty is a lie.
And the entity has a name for this place. It's not an abbey, it's a conservatory of arrogance. I love that phrase. It's like a greenhouse, carefully cultivating the worst of human pride. And the Red Death? Well, it sees itself as the gardener, here to wither its poisonous blooms. So why is this abbey the final target? Because it stands for the ultimate human delusion, the idea that you can use money and thick walls to barricade yourself against the inevitable. And for the Red Death, that is a challenge it absolutely has to answer.
And so we come to our final section, part 6. The Red Chapter begins. This is the inevitable approach. Its final journey isn't a mad dash. It's described as a methodical pilgrimage. It moves with a kind of predatory grace, and every step it takes leaves a stain of rust and decay on the green earth. This isn't random destruction. This is deliberate. It's like it's carefully writing the final bloody chapter of a book.
And it's so important to get this. This is not the Grim Reaper. There's no scythe, no hourglass. Why? Because it doesn't need tools. It is the harvest. It's an elemental force, as unstoppable and unthinking as a hurricane or an earthquake. You can't reason with it.
And that brings us to the parable's final chilling point. This whole descent, it's not presented as a tragedy. It's a necessary transformation. It's a correction for a kingdom that had completely forgotten the dignity of the grave. So it leaves us with this really provocative final thought, doesn't it? In a world that does everything it can to deny its own end, what terrifying form must the end take just to get our attention?